Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair recognizes the ranking member.
Thank you kindly. Just for UC requests, the first is an article from the Washington Post dated August 7 of this year. It's entitled, "Walls has a long history with China, but he's not pro-China." The second is from the Post dated August 8, 2024, entitled, "Walz's deep China experience is good for the country." Both articles conclude Walz's deep knowledge relating to China are an asset and not a liability for the United States.
Without objection to order, I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. And just to go around the panel real quick, I have a few questions. I'm going to give you plenty of time to answer my last question. Everyone on the panel has already testified and agrees that the CCP is a huge threat to America and a huge threat to our government. Does anyone disagree that as we speak, the Chinese Communist Party is trying to infiltrate our government, various government agencies, and our political system in general? Now, I'm going to ask each one of you yes or no, and then we'll go into more in-depth questions. But is the average government agency aware of the threat the CCP poses? I mean, in other words, does anyone have confidence that the government agencies here in Washington, D.C. are aware of the threat? We're not even talking about do they have a plan to combat Chinese infiltration, but do you believe the government agencies are aware? Dr. Thayer?
Thank you, Chairman Coleman. Not sufficiently, sir.
Mr. Atkinson?
Overall, I do not believe they are.
Our reporting is woefully not commensurate with the current threat.
Mr. Stokes?
I think the foreign and security-focused agencies, our intelligence agencies in particular, are very aware. I think the more domestically focused agencies, given that the threat is emanating kind of outside their domain, might be less.
Okay, thank you. Ambassador Chella, has the CCP used political and economic warfare to weaponize the obsession with green energy?
We need not look any further than Michigan. So we've talked about Goshen. Your colleagues have raised the Goshen matter. And again, as a textbook, influence operation, subnational incursion. The one project that I did not talk about that is also present is a joint project with Ford, cattle. That left Virginia after Governor Youngkin said is a national security threat. Ended up on our shores. So malign things are affiliated with both of these. You have 3 congressional committees looking at the cattle deal for a reason, because it is a threat.
I'm concerned about the Green Deal specifically because I believe that this would give China a much greater competitive advantage. And I believe that China has fueled a lot of the discussion about the Green New Deal. What should federal agencies do to address this problem?
In my humble opinion, I would just say we need not look any further than, I think, Germany, who I think got way out over their skis with green technology, integrating with the EVs, and I think it's perilous for the United States to get on that same track. Michigan is the automobile capital of the world, and I think they're on a perilous track by heading where they are. I think Toyota, struck the right balance between hybrids and conventional internal combustion engines, but we really need to be aware of this technology and mindful of the maligness of China.
Okay, and I'm going to ask, for time's sake, Dr. Thayer, Mr. Atkinson, and Ambassador Chella, if you could convince federal agencies to do one thing to secure Americans from the Cold War the CCP is waging, what would it be? Dr. Thayer?
Work with Congress and the executive to formulate a strategy of victory over the CCP.
Mr. Atkinson?
I think each agency needs to develop an internal plan and strategy and implementation of how they would see the CCP threat vis-a-vis the areas that they cover as an agency.
Ambassador?
I think the footing of the National Security Act of 1947 modernized so these agencies working with you and what that would look like. It would involve a top-to-bottom assessment and then adjust accordingly, plugging the gaping holes that exist.
Okay. Mr. Atkinson, you've expressed concerns that America's technology powerhouses have allowed themselves to become increasingly dependent on China for manufacturing various components, and a vulnerable Taiwan. We all know about the semiconductors and all that. Could you explain why this happened and what federal agencies need to do to solve this issue, our dependence on China and Taiwan for so much of our technology, if not all of our technology?
Well, first of all, we failed for many decades to put in place an effective techno-economic policy. I'll give you an example. President Reagan was the big cheerleader of putting in place a research and development tax credit, as was every administration. In the Clinton administration, we had the most generous R&D tax credit in the world. Now, the Chinese R&D tax credit is 3.75 times bigger than ours. So we need to just do simple things like use the tax code to drive more innovation and investment. But the other part of that is we've had a long history of where federal agencies have turned a blind eye. For example, as we speak, the National Science Foundation has a joint quantum computing research program with the Chinese. We gave away our most advanced nuclear technology to Oak Ridge National Laboratory. We had a Chinese delegation there in the 2000s, and they were there for over 6 months. And we just didn't care. And so it's time to raise that level of awareness much, much higher.
Very good, very good. Chair now recognizes Mr. Perry from Pennsylvania.
Thank the Chairman. Gentlemen, great to see you. Dr. Thayer and Mr. Atkinson, I don't hold a lot of hope for Congress to do